told you this is a big show. It's a big, beefy show. And we've now got a little bit of an announcement to make.
Mm-hmm.
Because joining us now is the new
Bam.
college football insider for Dave Campbell's Texas Football. It's Mike Craven.
How's it going, sir? It's been a long time since I've sat in this chair.
It's been a minute, and it got colder in here, didn't it?
It
got colder.
I'm so glad someone walked in and goes, man, it's really cold in here. I'm like, I've been preaching this for years, people.
I gotta keep a hoodie.
Yeah,
up here.
listen, that's a big play around here. Is that we keep the AC turned down.
Yeah.
First of all, welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I mean that as far as like taking the job is concerned. Like, thanks
Sure.
for doing that. That's fun. Let's talk. We're going to talk a little bit of college football. What we saw in week 1, of course. Listen to the Republic of Football when Mike actually made his Dave Campbell's Texas Football full-time debut. So subscribe to that. But what we do, Mike, is every Thursday we have our Burning Questions segment. And so for the recap, we're just going to go through the questions and see how they got answered.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yep, I can do that.
Question number 1, Pickle.
Question number 1. Let's go back to the UTEP Miners here. Is UTEP fixing to be 2-0?
Yeah.
Yep.
2-0 for the first time since 2005. It wasn't always pretty. A little bit late. Bethune-Cookman got some shots off and stuff like that. But 2-0 is 2-0 at UTEP, and they don't apologize for that.
No. Gavin, he looks good. Hardison looks good. Ronald Awat looks pretty good at running back. So, they had a schedule where they needed to go 2-0.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's an emergency break glass if they're not 2-0 right now. So that should build some momentum, some confidence inside that locker room, and they need as much as that as they can get in El Paso right now.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we had, going back to the TCU game, where is Duquesne?
Oh, I know this.
Did you know this before? Like, you didn't have to look it up?
Yeah, so Fort Duquesne is basically what Pittsburgh is now. So,
Yeah.
It was a French fort in like the 1700s, eventually became English and then American or whatever. But essentially, where Fort Duquesne is now what we call Pittsburgh.
Wow.
I didn't even know how to say it on Thursday.
The only reason I knew it was because of like college basketball.
I'm an extremely big nerd. I try not to let everybody know that, about myself. I don't know if I advertise it as much as everybody here, but
well, buddy,
yeah,
you're amongst
especially
friends.
history-wise, yeah. And I was just up in that area all last summer or whatever for the pandemic. I went and spent all that time up in the Northeast. So Fort Duquesne.
TCU puts on a clinic against Duquesne. I thought Max Duggan. I thought the offense, like as far as debuts are concerned, it's because it's Duquesne and because it's like not because TCU doesn't play like this big, flashy, sexy brand of football. It's going to fly under people's radar. I thought they were awfully impressive in week 1.
Yeah, they did what they needed to do, and they're never going to be the team where you look at the box score and go like, "Oh man, 500 yards passing," or "Look at that guy with 200 yards rushing." That's just not what TCU does. But if you watch that game, they did anything that they wanted to do whenever they wanted to do it.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we head over to the Texas A&M game. What would signify success for the Aggies in their opener?
Staying healthy. I thought that was kind of the big thing. You get Haynes King out there, you let him make a couple early mistakes, get those jitters out there, get him kind of situated with being a quarterback in college. Other than that, it's just avoiding any major injuries, and it sounded like they did that. They also scored on defense, which I thought was pretty big. Leon O'Neal had a great game.
Yeah, and there was some wringing of hands among Aggies during that game because they weren't putting the pedal to the metal. But that played out a lot like it feels like the kind of game that good teams play in week 1, which is we're going to fart around a little bit, not going to be super crisp maybe in the early going. There's going to be one big play, and then we're going to hit the gas.
And A&M, to their credit, has reached the status of there's only a couple games on the schedule that matter. They just have to win all their games, right? If they're blowing out all these teams, they get to the Alabama game and lose by 20, none of that matters.
Right.
If they're playing okay against these teams, they get to Alabama and they win by 7.
Doesn't matter.
Go for it.
It's kind of pass-fail in a lot of regards.
And that's what Texas was under Mac Brown, and that's what A&M is now, and that's to their credit. That's a good place to be.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, how about them Roadrunners? What would UTSA over Illinois actually be that big of an upset?
Well, the line was 4.5, so it's an upset. UTSA's only win over a Power 5 school previous to this was a 2017 Baylor team that was going through a lot of stuff
yes.
at that time. So this feels like the biggest win in UTSA program history. I saw national guys talking about UTSA that I've never seen talk about UTSA before. So I do think it was an upset, maybe not as big as people unfamiliar with UTSA would think it was, but it was an upset, and it was definitely a big win.
It's one of those, like, it's one of those upsets where it's bigger from a brand name perspective upset than it is actually, like, on the field.
And if you know type of situation.
Yeah, because, like, I look at you, I think, we look at UTSA and we're like, we think this team has a chance to be really good.
Yep.
And, Illinois, good for them. They beat Nebraska in the opener, but, like, that's a bottom half of the Big Ten type team. Still, to go on the road and do it, I mean,
to get paid $1 million to beat someone is
look,
never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Again, not a math major, but that just seems pretty cool.
Good.
I saw somebody online that said if you win one of those pay games, the opposing coach should come out with like one of those big
checks. You got to take it to a big bank.
Like that would be
that would be great.
Brett Bielema's bringing out.
Jeff Trail's like jogging over, like
right.
All right, what's next, Pickle?
All right, up next, we asked, SFA played a fall season while Tarleton played a spring season. Did that matter?
Not really. I don't know. I was impressed. I was actually impressed with Tarleton. I thought SFA was the favorite in this one, but Tarleton came out firing. SFA had to rally in the fourth quarter to come away with the win. But overall, I think that it was an interesting kind of dynamic of one team played in the spring, one team played in the fall. It was super important to Colby Carthel to stay on schedule and keep things as normal as possible. They started a little bit slow, but, a win's a win. They're 1-0. That's the most important thing.
I think if there is any difference, it won't come in individual games. It'll be injuries built up over the year. Mm-hmm. So maybe come November, we look back at this and go, okay, are the schools that are playing kind of twice in the same year suffering for some injuries that maybe the other schools aren't?
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, it was a Texas game here with Baylor and Texas State. Who looked better? Was it Gary Bohannon or Brady McBride?
I mean, I may take Brady McBride.
I think I will too.
Somewhere
came away.
Ishmael Johnson is freaking out.
I came away a little bit disappointed in the Baylor offense.
Yep.
Now it's young, it's early, and they're working a new quarterback. They're working an entirely new scheme. But they should have. I mean, the Texas State defense, I think, was there for the taking, and it seemed kind of fits and starts for them. And Bohannon was okay. I don't know. I wasn't supremely impressed by them. They did what they had to do. That defense is legit. I think that defense is legit, but I think I went with I might go with McBride.
Defense looked really, really good. This may be an expectations thing. Mm-hmm. I just don't know I don't know what the identity of the Baylor offense is, and I'm not sure that they do right now either. And so that's something they're going to really have to figure out. And they have a couple games against teams they should be able to beat while figuring that out. So. Yeah. Going into week 4, they need to really have this is what we hang our hat on, and I didn't see any of that on Saturday.
What's next, Pickle?
It was. What percentage chance do you give Texas Southern to get its first win since 2018?
Not much. And Prairie View beats them 40-17. Texas Southern. I like Clarence McKinney a lot. I'm rooting for him, but it wasn't going to happen against Prairie View in the opener.
Yeah, getting a song on the Drake album is probably the highlight. Of the Texas Southern
Shout out Texas
season.
Southern. 40-7. Jawan Pass went 25-37 for 354 and 3 touchdowns for Prairie View. Thanks to the construction guys.
Shout
next
out
door.
construction guys.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, talking about SMU, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Tanner Mordecai, over under 4.5 total touchdowns, and boy howdy did he blow this one out of the water.
I might have taken the under on this one.
You look like a
there's
fool
no
out
way,
here.
There's no way to look at the tape. Don't look at the tape.
I mean, taking the under on 4, you would have had to pick 5 touchdowns. Like
I know.
I would have gone with the under too. Tanner Mordecai. Look, at my previous job when I was doing the Fat 55, I may have been one of the only people that had him that high in the state. I think Tanner Mordecai is tremendous. If Spencer Rattler's not at Oklahoma, he's starting for the Sooners, and so I think he's really good, and he looked tremendous. And you had some big shoes to fill with Shane Buechele, and he seems to fill them.
He looked the part. Apparently, I don't know if you saw there was a quote from Sonny Dykes in one of the press conferences. I think the Monday press conference was he said, I got a text from Shane Buechele he sent the stat line. It's like 7 touchdowns, like you never let me do that. Which is like, I respect that. I respect that level of never graduate from Shane Buechele. All right, what's next?
A game that we were all super hyped for. Was it a must-win game for both Matt Wells and Dana Holgerson? And I think you both said yes last week. You and Ish, that is.
Well, I mean, the narrative's set now. I mean, for Dana, now look, they should win this week against Rice, and then they get Grambling, so they should be 2-1. But at the same time, man, it's like that they looked. You made a great point on Republic of Football, and I don't want to butcher it. But it looked like Dana had like a good idea at the beginning, and there was no real plan B.
Well, and the plan against Texas Tech is punch them in the mouth and watch them fold. And I think the most impressive part of what happened Saturday was that Texas Tech team was there for a fight for 60 minutes. And that's a game I think Texas Tech loses by 20, 30 points in previous years. And they went really transfer heavy. They got some experienced guys in there that are tough and know how to win, who have been to a couple different places. And you can see the plan for Matt Wells start to materialize in that second half. And if Texas Tech can be that good on the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, they're going to be pretty good. To think of a Texas Tech team that's a run-first, defense-playing school is just going to take some time to adjust to. But they looked really, really good in that, last three quarters.
I thought Taj Brooks looked great, man.
Oh, man.
That kid's stud. Maynard from?
He's from Manor. He's from Manor. And that Austin area has a couple small running backs that kind of got away from UT A&M just because they're 5'6", Deuce Vaughn at Kansas State's one of the same ones. So as a guy who was in Austin covering a lot of high school football at that time, is like, guys, Taj Brooks is going to be really good. Running back height's not that big of a deal, and yeah, he's gonna be a really good. And then they got a wide receiver out there that's he's incredible.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think Tech should. That's one of those games where I think there's like. Oh man, I'm gonna make some friends. I think Texas Tech Twitter is like among the most like doom scrolling in America. Right. Man, you like something starts going wrong and it's just like. It's over.
Set everything on fire.
And oh my gosh, I mean, they get down 14-0, and you would have thought that like they just need to close the university.
Right.
I think that they can feel unequivocally really good about what happened on Saturday.
I don't know. I mean, UTSA had a big win. Texas looked good. I'm not sure I was impressed more by any other team than Texas Tech. Go down 14-0, to not have the ball until like 2:33 left in the first quarter. And then to respond that way is just not something I've seen from a Red Raiders team, maybe ever.
That was very, very impressive. What's next, Pickle?
Let's head up to Denton here. Who are you buying stock in, Austin Aune or Jace Ruder?
I watched 0 plays of this game. So I'm going off entirely off of the box score. But it seems like they started Ruder. Is that right? I believe they started Ruder in this game. It ends up being that he goes 10 of 21 for 131 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. And, they got a huge game from DeAndre Torrey, which they needed. And this game was, a little hairy there at halftime, but then they pulled away in the second half. I don't know. Quarterback seemed a little – I need to go back and watch the game, admittedly. But from the box score to the advanced stats, seems like quarterback – job's still certainly up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to pick one, I'm going with Aune. I just think I know what he is a little bit more. And, North Texas is going to be one of those teams. I know they want to pass the ball. Like, that's what they do. But they're going to be better this year if they just kind of go game manager at quarterback, run the football, play defense. I feel like at least until midway in the season when they build a little bit of consistency through the passing game, like that's going to be their bread and butter. And they just need to pick one. Like, I'm a believer in you just got to pick one and go with it. You can't do the two. Rice is the same way, where you got to pick one. And eventually he's going to have to.
What's next, Pickle?
Up next, the game that happened in Austin. Which unit is most important to Texas avoiding an upset?
Boy, because I believe I said offensive line. I think Ish said receivers. I think both had reasons for positivity.
Offensive line was.
Offensive line got better as the game went on. They figured out some things I think at halftime schematically that helped them kind of protect a little bit. I think if Jordan Whittington wants to step up and be that kind of game breaker, they would certainly not mind that. He was a game changer for them. I think those were probably having a receiver step up, and then I think Hudson Carter's really good.
Yeah, the defense looked great. I thought the defense was fine. That defensive line is going to be really good. Moving forward, I think offensive line is the biggest question mark, just in terms of what they can handle up front. I think they'll get better as the season goes on, and honestly, Louisiana is probably a top 5 defensive line that they're going to face.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we look at that game and go, oh, they're struggling against the Louisiana defensive line. That's a good defensive line. So I think going forward, the Texas season will be determined at how good the big guys are up front, and that's usually the case. But with Bijan Robinson being such a big part of what that offense is going to do, the more room he has to operate, the more that's going to open it up for Jordan Whittington and Xavier Worthy and Joshua Moore. That passing game is going to get better and better the better that offensive line is.
Card did a really good job of showing that he can move out of the pocket too. That was another bright spot. But again, that's because he was having to scramble because the O-line wasn't quite living up to expectations.
Yeah, but I also thought, I'll just say this, I think that they game planned it well for a young quarterback making his first start. Is that it was a lot of manageable throws, just put it on the target and stuff like that, and then they expanded the playbook a little bit as the game went on, and it looked good.
And they paid attention to details.
Yes.
The special teams looked good. There wasn't a lot of dumb penalties. They found a football coach.
Yeah.
I mean, they found a football coach, and now it's just what can he do with that talent in year one.
What's next?
Finally, hoot. Should Rice fans be worried that the Owls haven't named a starting quarterback?
I still
take it for what it is. They played an SEC team.
Yeah, I still think they should be worried. I still think, they were kind of cycling through. I thought when Luke McCaffrey came in, he looked really solid for stretches there. I think he's probably the more talented guy.
Yeah.
They had a chance. I was tweeting about the intensifying hooting. They led in this game. I think they can take a lot of positives from it. But yeah, I mean, quarterback still is a problem. They still just I feel like they still don't have a guy that they feel like they can trust.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought it's because Luke came in kind of so late into the summer that this is one of those Wiley Green knows our whole playbook. He deserves to get a start, and we'll see who kind of plays better. And neither one of them played, just lights out to keep the other one on the bench or whatever. But I do think Luke McCaffrey is the higher upside kind of guy, and as the season goes on, I think he starts to kind of really take over. And like we were talking about with North Texas, you got to pick one. Like the team needs to know who the quarterback is, and the quarterback needs to know that he is the quarterback. And I think this Houston game will see the rotation a little bit more, but then as Conference USA games really get going, I think they pick one, and I would guess it's McCaffrey. He's
Mike Craven. We're going to let him get out of here because he's freezing. He's the college football.
Why does that never work for me?
He's the college football insider for Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Follow him on Twitter at Craven Mike. Welcome aboard, buddy.
I'm glad to be here.
We're thrilled to have you aboard, and make sure you keep doing your college football
Y'all have been paying me enough for a little while. I'm just glad the insurance is finally part of the deal. That's the
It's fine. Well, I mean, let's get through this week and we'll see.
We'll reconvene.
Don't need a doctor yet.
Yeah, I read the contract. It goes retroactive.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you would like more and to be notified when they come out, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down there. You can also watch Texas Football Today every day live at noon on TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, and right here on YouTube. For more of the best coverage of Texas football in the Lone Star State, go to TexasFootball.com/subscribe.